outcomes. Garth, what's the lowdown?
Well, I think it's the trend, it's the fashion, and it's something we need to pay attention to because it's actually what we're all on about. We're on about achieving results and an impact. But there's lots of fishhooks in there, and we need to be careful that we don't get trapped up in some of these measurement traps in focusing on outcomes and impact that we have in the community.
Last night, Te Rada actually came up with a few good stories.
Oh yeah, there was some great stuff that he was talking about, and he told us also about. I think one of the messages I got from Te Rada was that sometimes it's the unexpected outcomes that happen. It's the doors that open that we follow through, and a lot of the work that we do in the not-for-profit sector is as much art as science. And what we really want to make sure is that we focus on what are the real outcomes that make this a better world and better lives of the people that we touch, and that we don't get distracted by only focusing on the things that are measurable.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's like poetry, actually. Highlights from the conference.
It's been a great conference to be a part of. I've really enjoyed meeting people and hearing different perspectives. One of the things I will not forget was the Dragon's Den. And the thing that impressed me, and we still haven't heard the results yet, it won't really matter what the results are. There were 5 fantastic stories. And you just think, there's a whole room full of people here. Each of them have a fantastic story. There are 98,000 non-profits across the country. Each of them have fantastic stories to tell. We have such good news to tell people. We just really need to let people know more the great things that are happening in our communities. Small lives, small things changing, people's lives are being touched, but it's just fabulous to see all the good work that's happening from young people and old people and everyone in between.
You've got huge experience. Tell us about that.
I've been working in and around the not-for-profit sector since I was about 16, which is a couple of years ago now. When I was in high school, I set up a not-for-profit organisation, though I didn't know that's what they were called then. It was an environment group, and got a bunch of my mates together to see what we could do locally on conservation issues, as we called them in those days. And I've just been hooked on these not-for-profits ever since. So I've worked in government departments, policy agencies, I've done research, teaching, I've run a few NGOs, and I now also run a consultancy business with NGOs. And for some jobs that people do, I think they find that familiarity breeds a little bit of contempt. But I just fall more in love with this sector every week. There's such great things and such passionate people. You know, how could you not be excited by what they're doing?
The health sector seemed to be a distant cousin to our sector, yeah. The social sector. Yeah. Why do you think there's such a big divide there?
Well, I think that's one of our limitations, that we are often so passionate about our own individual work, our heads are down. And as we heard from Nigel Latta, we've got to look up. We've got to look up to where we're going, what's the bigger picture, where are the connections? And I think that's why conferences like this are really great opportunities, because we can make connections across a region. You know, we're out of our little particular groups and particular areas of focus and looking who else is working in our region. And I think that kind of peer networking is really valuable. We've got a lot to learn from each other.